In the year 2014, lawmakers tried to take down the free internet by dividing it into 2 lanes. A fast lane for those who could afford to pay for it, and a slow lane for everyone else. The cable companies, who basically already had a monopoly over the internet service, sided with the government to dominate total control over the internet. The people revolted. A rebellion formed. The movement was called net neutrality. The belief that the internet should remain a level ground where anyone and everyone could freely communicate. The battle for the net was fierce. The future hung in the balance. The FCC opened up a public forum, and the response from the resistance was so huge, it crashed their site. We had the power of the people, the power of numbers. But it wasn't enough. The internet still wasn't safe. For the second attempt to protect the free and open internet, the websites of the world, popular and unheard of, banded together to fill all available bandwidth. The Internet Slowdown Day was meant to show the world what the internet would be like on the slow lane. So much bandwidth was being used across the world, websites would take hours to load. It was as if for a day there was no internet. And yet in the end, it made no difference. Net neutrality was destroyed. In the years that followed, successful companies, who now had to pay internet providers extra for the fast connection to their customers, began charging extra to their customers in order to cover the costs. And the customers, who now had to pay extra for their services, were also paying extra to the cable companies so they could have access to the fast lane. When we were already facing a recession, this meant more and more people simply couldn't afford internet access, so they just lived without. Smaller companies, whose businesses were dependent on the internet, but couldn't afford the fast lane, simply couldn't compete with the bigger companies that could. And with the customer base drying up, those smaller businesses simply ceased to exist. And with fewer customers and less competition, the bigger companies had created a monopoly they simply couldn't maintain, so they too started disappearing. By the year 2035, there was no one left to pay the cable companies for the internet fast lane. So the cable companies that had been so proud of their victory were themselves suffering. They tried to save themselves by introducing a new system that would offer a 5-tier internet. They tried to say it was affordable, but it was too late. The entire system collapsed, and the world turned to chaos.
Why'd we have to give up net neutrality?
Make no mistake, the battle for the net is very real. One day you'll be asked where you were when they took down the free internet. Are you gonna say, I just stood by and watched it happen?